Ms. Jones, can we have roll call?
Yes, sir. Mayor Jerome?
Here.
Ms. Tillett?
Here.
Mr. Crail?
Here.
Ms. Hope?
Here.
Mr. Robson? Mr. Slavy?
Here.
Mr. Tucker?
I'm here.
Okay, we're gonna go, I wanna get the presentation, the fire department's pending on the way. Does the council, will they need a recess after that to finish their food or anything? You okay to do that? Everybody's good to go? What I would like to do though, instead of doing the public comments first, but it's okay with everybody, without objection, I'd like to do the presentation first before the public comments, since we have everybody here at this point. Thank you very much. And with that, turn it over to Fire Chief. Fire Chief Reiner, I'm going to turn the meeting over to you at this point. For the presentation.
Mayor, Council, Ms. Hayes, thank you very much for the chance to be here tonight and recognize 3 of our firefighters. It gives us a chance not just to introduce them to you, but it gives our audience that we serve a chance to meet them when perhaps it's not an emergency. So each of the firemen that are here tonight have family with them, and that's really important because they're not just here to celebrate, but also they're part of the commitment that it takes to be a fireman. Our fire department's divided into 3 shifts, so each of these firefighters will work every 3rd day, but also every 3rd night, every 3rd weekend, every 3rd holiday, and the only way that can be successful is if they have the commitment of their family also. So, that being said, I'd like you to meet Josh Parrish. Josh? Let's scan over. Josh is one of our new firefighters, and his dad, Steve Parrish, is going to pin his badge on. Picture takers.
Especially you guys went too far.
We also have Jesse Ravenscraft, Jesse, and his mother Jeanette Ravenscraft. Our future is very bright with young firemen like that. Also, Steve Painter. Steve has been with us since 2012, and we're here tonight to recognize his position as one of our deputy fire chiefs. Over the past year, been a hugely positive impact on the changes we've been making at the fire department. Steve's wife, Amy, is going to pin his badge on.
We have everybody to come around.
Yes. If we get a picture, that'd be great. So Jesse, Josh.
business on public comments. And it's just time for the public to come forward on any comments on any subject related to the city business that is not on tonight's agenda. And please, and we already have some speaker cards. And when you get up, please state your name and address for the record. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. And answers to any questions will be given, may not be given immediately, but your question will be placed under frequently asked questions on the city website, and an answer within 30 days will be given. And I have 3 cards, and first one, Susan Nimick.
Hi, my name's Susan Nimick, and I'm the owner of Ashley's Flags and Sports Shop at 317 North Donnelly Street. And the reason I'm here this evening is I think it's time that we start looking at a task force, maybe with merchants and maybe the special, the people that put on the craft fair, and maybe the city people that are in charge of it also, because there seems to be some major problems that aren't being addressed and that have been brought to the attention of the council quite a few times. We have to worry about the parking. When we had the Blueberry Festival, I know it was done down at Evans Park, but the person that's one of the vendors was parked between 5th and 6th, and then across the street from my place, in the little space there, he put a U-Haul trailer and left it there for 2 days. And I don't think that that trailer, I mean, if we're gonna have special events, and they need to provide places for these people where they can go. I know like now, especially like when they're doing the, what's it called, the market, they have a place where they put all the vendors, and it seems to work very nicely. But I think you need to think about the merchants a little more. I think when you're doing an art craft fair, I don't want somebody that's not a crafter in front of my store. I want to have crafters. That's why I give up my space, and you don't pay me to use my space in front. I lose money. The vendors are let in at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on a Friday, 1 o'clock a lot of times, and they should not be pulling into that parking lot across the street at that time. They should be waiting, I think they said 4 o'clock or something. So these are things I think that we could all work together on, but we need to have a task force to do something to take care of this problem, because it's just growing and growing. And I think that you really, the merchants need help, and they need to get involved too. And I know that Robin has reached out to the merchants. I know people haven't shown up for meetings, but that has nothing to do with this task force. I think we need to sit down with the event planners and say to them, hey, I don't want somebody wheeling or pulling people into a tent when my people from the city are getting upset because they're getting them to spin a wheel or do something, or putting cars in front of my store, things like that. I mean, if I'm giving up my space, I want it to go to a crafter, and I don't think I'm asking for anything special. But I think we really need to look at all the problems we have and discuss them with Visit Mount Dora, if that's who's doing it, and maybe we all should just sit down and have a little talk and maybe have some rules on all sides. I'm not saying the merchants are the best either. I know that they, cause their problems too. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Next is Zach Boone, if I'm reading this right. Oh? Broom. And CDR here. Sorry about that.
No problem. Yeah, Zach Broom with Bone and Shroff, and I'm here tonight on behalf of the Summit Condo Association. For those of you who are not familiar, the Summit Association is located at the intersection of Helen and 7th, overlooking Old 441 and that little triangle area. And the reason we're here tonight is somewhat of a procedural basis. The reason I'm doing public comment, we sent a letter to the city staff about drainage issues where basically the drainage from Helen and 7th is going straight onto and across the Summit condominium property. The city sent out to Pegasus Engineering to have them look at it, and unfortunately Pegasus didn't get back to us until basically yesterday. Not enough time to get on the agenda as an agenda item. Our understanding is it's going to be brought up during the manager's discussion. Unfortunately, as you're probably familiar, there's no public comment during the manager's discussion. So we're trying to address it now during public comment. And really, what we're here about is very simply, the way the drainage is set up on Helen is inadequate to stop the flow coming downhill onto the summit, and it's just going through there, basically sheeting. And so we wanted to work cooperatively with the city to come up with a result that makes everyone happy in addressing the drainage situation. As to the actual facts of the drainage, I've got Mr. Ed Brooks, he's the president of the association here tonight, and he's actually the second speaker card, but I'll let him use the rest of the time to address that. Thank you.
Thank you. And the last card is from Mr. Brooks.
Yep, Ed Brooks, 721 Helen Street. And thank you. Real quickly, I think we're real close with the city. Certainly with the manager of public works, we've had a number of conversations, but it stalled. I think he's on medical leave, has been, and it stalled. And of course, with the rain we have now, we have a continuing problem. So we just want to reserve the fact that the letter may not be as inclusive or as descriptive of the problem as we think it may be, based upon discussions I've had with some principals in the city. So we're hoping that that letter per se is not the response that will ultimately be followed by the city manager. Thank you.
Well, thank you very
Any
much.
questions at all? Okay.
Thank you. Okay, is there anybody else who would like to address the council on any matter not in front of us? Up, state your name and address, 3 minutes, please.
Evening, Mike Masterson, 7887 Crosswinds Way. We've been getting a lot of attention regarding the graffiti or artwork on our walls. We've got a lot of attention over the construction of the wall on Alexander Street, and some debates have been debate has been going on regarding are our ordinances up to snuff and our ordinances current and are they conflicting, etc. And it's been and a number of suggestions have been made about how to get them up to snuff. I do not think that the citizens under a charter, Citizens Charter Evaluation Commission, are equipped and understanding of enough to be able to do that. I've stayed in a lot of Holiday Inns, and I don't feel like I'm qualified. But I would suggest that we have law schools in the Orlando area, and the law schools have students, and hiring law school students who are trained in the evaluation of ordinances and evaluating the conflicting things that might exist between them would be a far more educated and qualified group of people to look at our ordinances, and we could get them to do this work for a lot less than what Ms. Cockcroft would qualify for, and her firm, and not to try and take any money out of your pocket, but my son was a law student, and any extra money that he could have earned would have been beneficial. But I think we would gain some benefit from having educated people that could understand the conflicts and be able to partner up and team up to have an organized process of looking at ordinances, reviewing them, offering up, this could be a conflict, this could be a conflict, this could be a conflict, and they could probably accomplish that in a far faster manner than a bunch of citizens gathered in a room with a pile of books on the table, reading through all of them and probably getting thoroughly confused. So I would offer that as a suggestion, because obviously we need to address them because we have so much conflict and discussion about does this apply, does this apply. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else?
My son doesn't need the job anymore though.
Anybody else wish to address the council? Seeing none. Move on and to the approval of the agenda, and Ralph, we have an item that I would like to, we're gonna need a little bit more work on it, and I'd like to pull that off the agenda tonight, and see which one that is real quick. It is item 7 under the resolutions, approval of resolution 2017-122. I'd like to hold that until our next meeting and to resolve a couple of issues on that yet before it comes to us again. It's okay with everybody? Anything else?
Mr. Mayor, I'd also suggest that we pull item 1 under public hearings and resolutions of transfer of Lemon Avenue. So a little bit like Groundhog Day, item 7 as well as item 1 were voted on at previous meetings. nothing has changed, and I don't see a need to vote on them again.
Is there something new on item 1? Or we need to address? And I just want to clarify you real quick before we do that there's something we have to address on that. I didn't get a chance to really look at that. You okay or not? Is the full
Again, it's up to the council member. It's up to the council member. As presented, I know that I spoke with Councilmember Crowell, and he still has some concerns about it.
Okay, no problem.
Yes.
And we can hold that till next meeting?
I don't think either one of them needs to come back, number 1 or number 7, as they were voted on previously, and nothing has changed.
Well,
Well, I'm fine.
can you refresh our memory as to what we talked about with the transfer of Limit Avenue? I know that this presentation showed that there would be, the city, in order to finish the sidewalks, would be about $68,000, and I would make a recommendation that we use Northeast CRA funds to do that instead of the regular funding. But I thought that street had been adequately taken care of, at least as far as infrastructure, by the county.
I thought
Unless
the
I
city manager
completely,
was gonna go back and ask again, because certain people up here felt that it hadn't been pushed enough. I mean, not all of us agreed, right? And I'm with you, that I thought it was done, but I thought that's what we asked her to do.
And I did, and that's in the memo that I went back out, and there was no change from the county's perspective. So that's what the memo reflects, no change in their support. They did suggest a funding source. Due to our legality of CDBG funding, we could not look at that because we already had received federal money. They were offering county money, and there was some challenge as to whether or not we could receive those funds. But again, I felt like it was an open item, so I did present it back to you because I was asked to go look to the county. So I've reported really the results of the county in here.
Let's, let's hold that one until next time at least, if you have more information that needs to be on there, then we'll do it. If not, then it stays off. But right now, we're just taking it off tonight's agenda, so at this point.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, on item 7, I know the council voted on that. One of the reasons I think with our vote, there was numerous questions that there was nobody here to answer those questions. And I know that Mr. Burke is in the audience tonight.
Right, there's still a couple other issues, and I'd rather to keep that off tonight and bring it back on the 31st.
Okay, fine.
Sorry, Mayor, the 31st is at this point in time a work session, so we'll need to make that a special session if you're to consider any action at that
Our next
time.
regular meeting.
Next regular session, September 7th.
Yes.
Thank you, Mayor.
So, first, are we doing a motion to table on item 1 and a motion to continue?
No, we're doing
The agenda.
the privilege agenda, taking these off. Yeah.
Okay, Mayor, I'll move
Any
to
other
approve the agenda based on those 2 changes. Is that what you're looking for?
I'm looking for it right now. Thank you. Any a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay. And we have approval of minutes. Let's take them one at a time there. And approval of the city council work session minutes dated July 26, 2017. Have a motion for approval.
Move to approve.
Thank you. A second.
Second.
Any changes, comments, questions on those minutes? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Approval of the city council regular session minutes dated August 1, 2017. Have a motion for approval.
So moved. Second.
Any comments, questions, changes? Anything? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Okay, approval of resolution number 2017-7, that one's off. Approval of resolution 2017-100 preliminary plat, Lakes of Mount Poor Phase 5A. And Ms. Cockcroft, could we have the title read, please?
Yes, sir. Thank Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Resolution number 2017-100, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Mount Dora, Florida, approving the preliminary plat of the Lakes of Mount Dora Phase 5A, providing for approval of preliminary plat, providing for conflict severability and effective date.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Hayes?
Thank you, Mayor, council members. This is a approval for Lakes of Mount Dora preliminary plat Phase 5A. The applicant is requesting preliminary plat approval for Phase 5A of the Lakes of Mount Dora subdivision. The proposed subdivision is located south of State Road 44 of the Lakes of Mount Dora. Phase 5A is a continuation of the home sites at Bridgeport Bay Circle, eastern side of the community. The 5A was a proposed lot as part of the total 725. I believe there's some information in here that gives you that the Planning and Zoning Commission reviewed this at its regular meeting on July 19th, and it was approved, as well as the DRC reviewed and recommended approval of the preliminary lot plat requested as June 28th. So we propose that you approve this, and if you have any questions, Mr. Sanderfield is here to answer those.
Thank you. Mayor, entertain the motion for approval.
Move to approve.
Second.
Thank you. And any comments or questions on this from any of the council? Seeing anybody from the audience wish to address this item? See the applicants here? You're fine? Okay. And back to council, can we have the roll call vote, please? Ms. Johnson?
Ms. Hope?
Yes.
Mr. Creel?
Yes.
Ms. Tillett?
Yes.
Mr. Slavy?
Yes.
Mr. Tucker?
Yes.
Mayor Jerome?
Yes. Okay, we have approval of resolution number 2017-103, the final plat for Summerfield at Wolf Creek Ridge, phases 2B and 3. Ms. Cockcroft, could we have the title read, please?
Resolution number 2017-108, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Mount Dora, Florida, approving the final plat of the Summerview at Wolf Creek Bridge Phase 2B and 3 subdivision, providing for findings, approval of plat, implementing actions, providing for conflict severability and effective date.
Thank you. Ms. Hayes?
Yes, thank you, Mayor, council members. The original Wolf Creek Bridge HUD master plan was approved by the City Council on February 17, 2004. Ordinance number 838, the PUD was amended on January 20th, 2015. Because of the lapse of time between the initial preliminary approval and the submittal of the Phase 2A, the request for the final plan plat will require approval by both the Planning and Zoning Commission of the City and the City Council. As allowed by the city's Land Development Code, the applicant has combined the review steps and has requested preliminary plat to be approved in concert with the final construction plan and final plat. Total of 110 existing lots platted under Phase 1. The Phase 2 has recently received the approval of City Council on April 4th, 2017 for an additional 22 lots. I'd like to make a note that the Planning and Zoning Commission did approve this on July 19th, and DRC has reviewed and approved the final plat and final construction at its June 28th, 2017. As stated before, Mr. Standerfield is here to answer any questions, and staff would recommend approval.
Thank you. Have a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any comments from the City Council? Anybody from the public wish to address this item? Applicant here wish to say anything? Thank you. Go ahead.
I just have one comment, and I think it's for Mr. Sandersfeld. This property is to the right, adjacent to the already developed area. Is that correct? From the map there. And my question is, has that property been surveyed for whether it has mature canopy trees?
Vince Sandersfeld, Planning and Development. Sorry.
No problem.
This phase is the final phase.
So
2B and 3. It's the last section to the north. It's the shaded area on your map. The east side of Niles Road, where the water plant is, that's a future park site.
Okay.
And so the development where your finger is, with the shaded area, that's where the home sites are located.
Yeah, that I understand.
So the majority of the trees will be impacted.
Okay.
Due to the infrastructure, the stormwater, the installation of the utilities, there'll be extensive grading in the site in order to put in the infrastructure the roots will be impacted, so the canopy trees, the majority, are impacted by the improvements. However, the Land Development Code provides provisions for mitigation and replacement, where appropriately we can put back new stock, new specimen trees, and we outlined in the staff report that the applicant actually mitigated a greater number of trees. I believe like 423 new trees we planted. Most will be on the individual lots, but also will be on common areas and at the entrance.
I was just wondering if there were any heritage trees on that.
No, and none defined like that.
Fine.
That's
Just,
but you get me going on the state.
yeah, that's good. Sorry. That's why I just wanted to clarify. Thanks.
Any other comments? And none. Ms. Johnson, we have a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Creel?
Yes?
Mr. Tucker?
Yes.
Mr. Slavy?
Yes.
Ms. Hope?
Yes.
Ms. Tillett?
Yes.
Mayor Jerome?
Yes. Approval of resolution number 2017-109, concert in the park. Ms. Conocoff, do we have the title read?
Yes, sir. Resolution number 2017-09, a resolution of City Council of City of Mount Dora, Florida, approving the application for the concert in the park, providing for street closures, providing for legislative findings and intent, providing authority to the city manager for implementing administrative actions, providing for savings provision, and providing for scrivener's errors, conflict, severability, and effective date.
Thank you. Ms. Hayes?
Yes, thank you, Mayor, council members. This is a request for the concert in the park as an evening concert. It will take place at Evans Park, Elizabeth Evans Park, on Saturday, October the 7th. The concert will begin at 6 p.m. and it conclude approximately at 10 p.m. with road closure of Edgerton Court to begin at 4 p.m., concluding at 11 p.m. The map has been attached. Visit Mount Dora has formed a partnership with the Mount Dora Area Chamber of Commerce, of which I believe they're both present tonight, to present this concert in conjunction with the Mount Dora Bicycle Festival weekend with efforts of tourism and development. City staff has also properly notified and communicated with the president of the Lawn Bowlers Association and deposed no conflict. The required paperwork is included to include the application, as well as the special event plan and a cost estimate of the reimbursables that will be due back to the city. No impact. The event sponsor will reimburse the city at all costs, and the event number for this particular event is SE 1404, and the city charges the client for all the services rendered.
Thank you. Have a motion for?
Move to approve.
I'll second.
Any comments?
Any question? Was it 1 p.m. or 4 p.m. this setup time?
I have 4 p.m. The
Road
begin at
closure
4
at 4.
p.m. Mr. Carson?
He was here.
Chris is outside.
Okay, so, Councilmember Slavy, it does say from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. on the application for setup, but it begins at 4 p.m. as far as parking.
You good?
Well, my other question is, and it's not on the event sponsor, it's shame on us, we still don't have a rate structure for giving up roadways and parking spaces. So I just think that we could do better on that.
Anybody else from the council? Seeing anybody from public wish to address this item? Being none, Ms. Johnson, can we have the roll call vote, please?
Ms. Hope?
Yes.
Ms. Tillett?
Yes.
Mr. Creel?
Yes.
Mr. Slavy?
Yes.
Mr. Tucker?
Yes.
Mayor Jerome?
Yes. Approval of resolution number 2017-114, scope of services from Besh to design a new lift station downtown. Ms. Conocoff, can we have the title read?
Had a question about the times.
Resolution number 2017-114, a resolution of City of Mount Dora, Florida, approving a scope of services for engineering design of a new lift station to serve the downtown area of Mount Dora to Booth, Ernstrom, and Hyatt Besh, Inc., providing for legislative findings and intent, providing for authority to the city manager for implementing administrative actions, providing for authority to the mayor to execute, providing for a savings provision, providing for scrivener's errors, conflicts, severability, and effective dates.
Thank you, Ms. Hayes.
Yeah, just thank you, Mayor and council members. This is a request to approve for the scope of services for BESH to design a new lift station for the downtown area. This is operated within our CCNA capacity. The existing lift station at 3rd and McDonald Street is nearing its maximum capacity. The lift station pumps cycle more frequently than normal. Lift station operationally, it would be better to redirect some of the flow away from the station to bring the station into a more normal operating condition. The location of the station near Lake Dora also raises the risk that sewage may end up in the lake in the event of a station failure. Reducing flow to the station will increase the critical response time to correct a problem before the lake is impacted. The construction of a new lift station at 5th and McDonald will substantially reduce the sewer flow to the existing lift station. The flow will be redirected from the existing sewer main to the new lift station. The discharging piping from the lift station will be connected to an existing force main that runs along 0441. The lift station site will be designed to fit with the surrounding area using decorative fencing and walls as necessary. The funds for this are in the budget. The accounting string is listed. There are 2 of them because we have residual funds in 2 different accounts to account for this. And it's estimated at this point in time, I believe it's around $150,000. The okay. With the, yes, 100, but then we have some contingency we need to put out there. But again, this is part of our CCNA process. If you happen to have any questions, we'd be glad to answer them. Mr. Peterson is in the audience as well as BESH if you have any questions of them, and staff would recommend approval.
Okay, can I have a motion for approval?
Move to approve.
Second. Thank you. Any comments, questions from staff, or from the council?
Just one question. Is this construction at 5th and McDonald going to be on the lake side of? No, it says a new station at 5th and McDonald. Is that going to be on the lake side of 5th?
Where Mr. Van Gogh is right now,
Okay.
that retention pond.
Got it. Okay. All right. So that's not any future road improvement or streetscaping up to that point is not going to affect.
No, ma'am, it will not affect
happens?
that area. In fact, we spent quite a bit of time looking at ways we can do it in a way that will not affect the appearance in the area. But as Ms. Hayes alluded, we've been struggling with lift station over at 3rd and McDonald for some time. We've been looking at putting in auxiliary storage and a number of other things. It was so cost prohibitive that when the yacht club came in with their new deck, it was an opportune time to reevaluate this.
That's great. Fine.
Excuse me, real quick, Ms. Peters. What's the anticipated completion?
Pardon me?
When is the anticipated completion for this project?
Well, design work probably going to take about 4 months. Then we'll have to bid it out. So I would say the construction will probably be around March or April, and construction itself probably something on a 3 to 4 month time frame. Okay. A lot depends on delivery schedule for pumps and that type of thing.
Okay. So it's not one of these quick projects. It's not a quick project. Okay.
And we could run into other issues, and that's the reason BESH, that could change a little bit. We might even have to bring a change order back to that.
What was it? Mr. Crown.
Mr. Peters, I think this is a good idea from a pollution potential standpoint. There are residences near there. What's the noise?
Noise usually is not the issue. In fact, one of the advantages of doing this is the odor issue. If the material is in the lift station too long, it becomes septic, and you have an odor issue. We don't expect that to be a problem here. It'll be sized so it's not. It's a very significant drainage area. The drain to that area, basically the whole hillside of downtown. So we will be able to remove a significant amount of flow off of lift station 1.
Thank you.
Okay. So anybody from the public wish to address this issue? Seeing none, Ms. Johns, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes. Ms. Hope?
Yes.
Mr. Tucker?
Yes.
Mr. Slavy?
Yes.
Mr. Creel?
Yes.
Ms. Tillett?
Yes.
Mayor Jerome?
Yes. approval of resolution number 2017-117, the Fifth Avenue speed limit. And could we have the title read, Ms. Cockcroft?
Yes, sir. Resolution number 2017-117, a resolution of City of Lake, Mount Dora, Florida, requesting the Lake County Traffic Operations Division to consider a speed limit reduction on Fifth Avenue from Highland Street to Baker Street, providing for legislative findings and intent, providing for authority to the city manager for implementing administrative actions, providing for savings provision, and providing for Scrivener's errors, conflicts, severability, and effective date.
Thank you, Ms. Hayes.
Yes, thank you, council members and mayor. This is per the last discussion we had in reference to Clayton. Our public safety director, police chief O'Grady met with the county. There was an agreement that we could reduce the speed limit from 30 to 25 at your request, and we just present them the resolution. Chief O'Grady is here if you have any questions of him, but I believe this just follows through the next process, and then of course going forward we still have to maintain the safety signage on Baker, McDonald, and Alexandra, which we will go forth and do in this year's budget.
Move to approve.
Thank you. And any comments, questions on this from council?
It's just,
None?
it's a
Okay.
good thing. It's, to me, it's a logical step when you have a corridor to have two different speed limits. Nobody slows down, so and we all know that that north end of Fifth is a problem. So thank you, Chief, for taking that to the county for us. We appreciate it.
John O'Grady, Director of Public Safety. I just want to clarify, it's going to be a request. So nothing's been agreed upon. We're just, as a council, requesting that they look at it and do it. And they usually will, but I just want to make sure.
Mayor?
Yes.
And thank you. In conjunction with this, I've talked to city manager, that portion of the roadway that is under our control, I've asked, or I guess I'm asking us, is if we can separately discuss or at the right point of moving that 25-mile-per-hour speed limit, which is pretty much mid-block between Alexander and McDonald, and moving that southward around the corner so that people slow down to 25 before they're coming into downtown. But that's all in our purview, I think, and I don't even know if we have to give direction or if that's taken care of.
Okay, that's good. Good, it's a good call there, Mr. Levy, that's nice.
Thanks.
I think we'll ran into that issue, come around there and you get it with the 25, yes.
Well, and when I'm looking at all the artwork or whatever, you want to slow down.
Yeah, you got it. Anybody from the public wish to comment? Just real quick on a side with that, Mrs. Still made a comment when we were talking about the flow, all this Clayton Avenue issue. This is one of those issues that precipitated from the Clayton Avenue accident survey that was done. And she made a comment about over on the First Avenue and Highland, our what do you call those things? The gateway monuments, about the removal of those things. When you come down there, I can understand very quickly what you're talking about and how people can be misled coming in there thinking that that's the main road coming into town, and then when they get down to the end, they got a dead end, and the natural instinct is going to make that right, which causes a lot of that issue. So, and I think that's something we seriously need to look at as far as what we're looking at and trying to cure all this.
And that will be part of the FDOT cleanup.
I spoke with because that's my district, and that was been my big thing, because I mean, I live along the way of the misguided people that go through that, end up in my parking lot if they keep on going up the hill on First. And so I have to direct them on it as to how to get to downtown. But I spoke to the city manager, and her recommendation was let's wait until we get the road work is done at the intersection of 441 and 46, and then consider moving those gateway monuments back closer towards 441, and then better signage at that intersection. So
Thank
yeah,
you for all this
under
efforts,
work.
all this to correct all these problems. Appreciate that. Okay, can I go to the public on this? Okay, good. We have roll call vote, please.
Ms. Tillett?
Yes.
Mr. Tucker?
Yes.
Mr. Slavy?
Yes.
Ms. Hope?
Yes.
Mr. Crail?
Yes.
Mayor Jerome?
Yes. Here we have a first reading of ordinance number 2017-09, Purple Heart right-of-way vacating. And if we have that title read, please, Ms. Cockhoff.
Yes, sir. Ordinance number 2017-09, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Mount Dora, Florida, approving the vacation of a portion of the Purple Heart Lane right-of-way between Crestview Drive and Hilltop Drive, providing for legislative findings and intent, providing for conflict severability, providing for correction of scrivener's errors, conflict severability, and effective dates.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Hayes.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. Actually, I'd like to ask Misty, can you put up the charts and the pictures that we sent earlier in reference to Purple Heart? This is what we're going to address tonight is the portion of Purple Heart Lane between Crestview Drive and Hilltop Drive. It's currently unimproved and is utilized by 3 of the 4 adjoining property owners for their private driveways. The city has fielded a number of drainage concerns with regard to drainage within the right-of-way area. City staff has determined that it is in the best interest of the city and the individual property owners to vacate this portion of Purple Heart Lane, allowing the individual property owners to modify the current drainage within their own property area. Councilmember Slavy was kind enough to go out and take a few pictures. I don't want to miss yours. I believe that's one of yours, Mr. Slavy?
Yes.
And then the next one?
I mean, from the property appraisal.
Property appraisal. He sent those and would like for me to add them.
I don't drone around.
And then this one here. And then you have the other one. Yes. You have the other one, Misty. Yes. And she has one more.
Just point
Okay,
to the lane.
that's okay. She's got it up here. She's going to put it.
Okay.
We have another one here from Mr.
Okay.
Peters. We're just trying to give you a point of reference, in fact. And then I think Mr. Sandersfield also has some information, and Mr. Peters, I'd like to provide the questions were asked about the period of time and so forth. I don't know if you'll be able to focus in on that. This is a bad screen. Maybe too hard to see.
Okay.
That's good right there, thank you. Mr. Sandersfield, can you come up for just a quick moment? Just give us a little history of what we were able to find out since we submitted this package. Mr. Peters, you can join him and provide any additional information. But I asked Mr. Sandersfield to go back to look to see if we had any permits on file, any history as to how we found ourselves in this situation as far as the city having Purple Heart Lane, in the sense of the citizens or these homeowners actually improving what would be really city property. So.
Thank you. Vince Sandersfield, Planning and Development. This is bound by the 4 single-family homes. Their driveways are permitted in the right-of-way, which is a normal operation. However, we couldn't find a permit. These are old existing sites, so they're archived. But it is not unusual to find driveway surfaces and right-of-way connecting to a home. We did find the home on the northwest corner a fence permit, so be the top left. Yeah. So there's this on their property is a fence. So there's no permits within the right-of-way, no special structures, and maybe Mr. Peters can elaborate anything underground. But from our standpoint, everything is proper from permitting.
Okay, Mr. Peters.
John Peters, Public Works Director. This particular situation, we've been working primarily with one property owner who has a pretty severe drainage problem. And the best solution for the drainage in their particular case was overlap grading. However, it would be very difficult to approve overlap grading in a city right-of-way. And in this particular case, we have 3 property owners out of 4 who are using the road right-of-way for their personal driveway. The 2 driveways on the left side of the boundary survey there have a pretty significant elevation difference between the 2. And so it would be extremely difficult to ever put a road through there or anything of that nature. The drainage in this area, believe it or not, is actually on the other property to the property line to the north. It doesn't go down Purple Heart Lane. Purple Heart Lane is a paper street in virtually the entire neighborhood. It was never developed into a roadway, giving our road program the likelihood that we would ever want to build a road in Purple Heart is slim and none. We are, if you read the document, we are retaining a utility easement over the entire right-of-way. For those of us who deal in land issues, easements typically have a value between 90 and 95% of the fee property. So even though we're giving up our rights in terms of fee ownership, we still retain 90% of the value in the easement. So that if we ever need the area for future drainage or utility project, we have the right to go in. But we're divesting ourselves of the potential liability and responsibility for the right of way.
Thank you, Mr. Peters.
Have a, I think I forgot to ask, have a motion for approval on this one?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. I know this is something that's, we talked about a lot of years ago, and on this issue, and it's finally, it's taken a while to get this thing done, but there's been a lot of issues with the property owners there with that drainage and really nasty drainage there, probably the same we're dealing with the Summit.
Well, I want to apologize to the property owner and to you, Mayor Jerome. It had taken a long time to get here. Quite frankly, I can't find the last time the city vacated a right-of-way. You know, there was a question whether to do it by resolution, by ordinance, and I felt like ordinance was the safest way to go, so that's why we chose to do it with an ordinance.
Okay. I know the property owners are going to be happy there, and this thing is finally going to get resolved, and with everything. So it's great. Thank you for all the work on it. Okay.
We have discussion.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna voice my concern against the motion. It seems to me on principle that any property owned by the city, we should do our utmost to gain value. When those citizens purchase the property, that have some deficiencies, I would see, and I would think that that was reflected in the price. Other citizens didn't look at the property because of those deficiencies, possibly whatnot. But I find it hard to believe that there isn't value in the property, that the city should look at selling the property to the property owners rather than give it away. I just don't see, and you know, I can be convinced otherwise, but I'm trying to understand why, as a policy, we would just solve it by giving it away.
Yes, I agree in principle. Even if we retain, or the easement provides 95% of the value of this piece of land, I guess I would prefer to see the city place some sort of even minimal value on that which is, going to be given up, just from a precedent setting point of view. I just, once you have done something, and you said yourself that, you can't remember when the last time the city vacated a piece of property, I just think it would be in the best interest of the citizens as a whole that the city gets something back for this property, and I would like to see it offered for sale to those citizens. That's as it stands right now. I can't support it.
Do we know how recently the property's turned ownership? Has it been in families for years? I mean, if they've had it for 25 or 30 years? And because some of this stuff, when things were bought years ago, there isn't that look. I mean, it's small community, small. I'm just curious, when was the last time ownership changed of any of those four pieces?
Vince Sandersfeld, I don't know. I didn't research that today, the ownership.
I can tell you, I own the house.
I know several of the folks that I've been in touch with have been in there. They are families of the original families that owned the home. So I know several of the places go back years. Now I can't speak for all four, but I've been in contact with two of the homeowners. We've been working this issue since I walked in City Hall, and we've been looking to solve the issue since then. So, I mean, we can go back and look at the other homes, but I know 2 of them are family homes. They've just been passed down.
And, yeah.
If I may address one thing, Ms. Hayes asked me yesterday regarding the land value issue and all that. If we were to sell the property for a value, it would become a land transaction. At the seller, I believe, would be responsible for closing costs. And that has a value. In this particular case, it would be the responsibility of the property owner to do a quick claim deed to take ownership. So there's a value in not having to do that legal transaction.
Just real quick too, when they take ownership, it's going to add to the value of their property as far as land usage.
Well, not only will it add to the value, but it will give them the ability to even add to the property. Right now, because it's a road right of way, they have a 25-foot setback. If they were both to own to the center of the new road, then their setback would be something, depending on zoning, would be something on the order of 10 to 15 feet. So, they could do a fairly significant addition to their homes as a result of this.
So in other words, we're going to get value. We're going to get value back in terms of taxes down the road.
Yeah.
So, not possible. You will.
Yes, that's correct. So that would be a benefit. The opportunity for expansions of the homes would be available. The setbacks wouldn't be so as restrictive. And I might add, Mr. Peters is taking over the abandonment of right-of-way and easement. And prior to that was in planning. We did have one maybe 3 years ago. It was on Camp. It was the Prince something way, and we abandoned it without transferring it. We have done that in the past as well. Usually it's an economic development engine or something in that fashion, or where a property is just unusable and that we would be a burden for us. So this is common practice for is what we've done in the past. But
Also, I believe we talked about, Mr. Sanderfield, about the comp plan, and there was some language in the comp plan in reference to selling or retaining the easement and or vacating property. So we do have this also in our comp plan, if you'd like to go.
Sure, and the mechanism of retaining an easement right away is a common practice of that easement, which achieves the same benefit of what you would do in this instance. The segments between Hilltop and Crestview, and to develop it as a right-of-way for the benefit of the side of their lots. So if you're putting in a road, curb, gutter, stormwater, infrastructure to city standards and sidewalks, that cost versus vacating it, possibly some improvements to the property, we're kind of doing a cost-benefit analysis. The staff looked at it. We feel it's a win-win situation to abandon it and put an easement over it. So that's why we recommended that segment.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments?
I'm going to move to approve it.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We already did.
We're still sitting here. Okay, good, we're going to move.
Okay, we already approved it. Okay, great. Okay, anybody from the public wish to address this issue? State your name and address, please.
Point to it on the map.
If you could put the pictures of the actual picture. I am the homeowner. The top left is my house.
With the red roof?
With the red roof.
Okay.
If you can see the street that runs right next to it that looks like a driveway, that is the property we're talking about. The people next door to us, right to the bottom of that, they paved it. It's disintegrating. Somebody's gonna fall on it. Somebody's gonna get hurt. That was my question to you. That was my question to the mayor. I don't want to be responsible for somebody getting hurt on your property. I don't want somebody to sue you. I'm just going to put a driveway there because it is the driveway only to my garage. If you go down that little street, I have a garage behind there. You can't see it for the trees. We're going to put concrete down there and make it a driveway to meet the other 2 driveways we have. We're not going to make any other improvements. We're not going to spend the reason that we wanted something done. All we asked was that you fix it, and you won't. but I'm not gonna put my 10,000 into it to fix it on your property. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Anybody else in the public wish to address this issue? Seeing if we have.
Can I come? Yeah, and, and this is good discussion, because it would be good in a memo to have all this laid out here. I mean, I'm sure people have heard about the wall and giving away city property, and I have had my ears burned by a few citizens, what the heck, giving away more property. So that's what brings up the questions. So I guess my question would be for our attorney is, is this normal? Is this, that sort of thing?
It happens very frequently. I've dealt with it a lot in other cities, and it's a normal sort of thing that happens. It provides long-term. Is it not? I can hear you.
Real close.
I've been told to speak up a lot lately, so it's a normal sort of thing. You do a cost-benefit analysis, like Vince said, and in the long run, you revert it back to the underlying plat, and the ownership goes back to the original property owners. It's a common procedure.
Speaking of cost-benefit analysis, could Mr. Sandersfeld give us just rough numbers as to it would cost us 30% more to keep it and fix issues than it would, or whoever.
This will be for John. Can I interject real quick?
Yeah.
They're coming up. It is generally situations where it's right-of-way or road right-of-way that's not being used by the public. It's only being used for private uses, like in this situation, from my understanding.
Okay, thank you. I'm just curious as to what the dollar amount.
Depends on what we're fixing. If we're fixing the concrete driveway and the drainage associated with it, we're probably looking at something on the order of $50,000-$60,000. Because once we deal with the drainage, then we got to take it somewhere. We think we got to take it down to the next street, and then we got to take it to the National Water Course. We've already have Pegasus Engineering to give us a proposal for doing the next street down. We have a property owner down there that had gotten flooded a couple times, and so what we have discovered is the piping that's down in that area is undersized for the drainage area. So we're going to have to deal with that. That project alone is probably going to be $50,000-$60,000. So.
Do we know why that half of Purple Heart Lane was never improved?
I would surmise that back when the subdivision was done, because Purple Heart basically connected every one of the east-west streets, and none of them were built, except for the one that goes down to the lake at one little segment. But the two segments of Purple Heart that were never built, and so I surmise that the developer decided that it really wasn't necessary, or difficulty of grade. When you go past the first two houses, it really drops quickly. It would probably be a 15% grade, which just unheard of. No, Southwest Virginia, that's nothing. But in Florida, 15% grade is unbelievable. It would be the new Thrill Hill.
Mr. Peters, nothing about this is going to exacerbate the drainage situation for property owners.
No, sir.
Downhill from.
No, sir. It's going to allow the property owner to do their overlap grading they need to do to fix the drainage problem. It's like she said, she didn't want to invest money on city property and then have us come back later and say we don't like that and tear it out. By doing this, she owns the property and she has that right.
Oh, I said I had an open mind and I'd change it, so I'm, from a dollars and cents perspective, it's just best to go for it. So I'm gonna support it.
Anybody else, council people have any other questions? Seeing none, Ms. Johnson, we have a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Crail?
Yes.
Mr. Tucker?
Certainly, yes.
Mr. Slavy?
Yes.
Ms. Hope?
Yes.
Ms. Tillett?
Yes.
Mayor Jerome?
All right.
coming, I guess, the next,
Yes.
next scheduled meeting?
We have to advertise and so forth, so we'll
Okay,
make
right.
sure we advertise this one and bring it back. Yes.
Okay, request to change October meeting date to accommodate participation in the National Night Out. And Ms. Hayes.
Yes, Mayor, Council, it was brought to our attention that the October 3rd meeting is a Tuesday night. That's also the same as National Night Out. I do recall last year that was my first meeting, and the challenge of finishing up the meeting to get over there was, again, a bit of a challenge. So we were just proposing simply moving the meeting from Tuesday night to Wednesday night. Obviously, there have been a few outlying changes. The CRA board and so forth may need to change to be rescheduled to a different night, or maybe they can be rescheduled earlier day because they meet earlier in the day on the 3rd. But either way, it's just a proposal to council to consider. And I would be glad to answer any questions. We have provided to you the charter information the city clerk did as part of that, so that you can see what's within the powers of the charter as far as making the changes. We would ask that you approve.
Move to approve.
Okay, have a second?
Second.
Thank you. We have to go to.
It's Thursday, not Wednesday.
It's not a resolution, we want you to go to public, pardon me?
Thursday, not Wednesday. The 7th is Thursday.
No, sir, this is October 3rd versus October 4th.
Oh, that was the other meeting.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Gillespie.
Mayor?
And we're going from the 3rd to the 4th, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great, already more thorough. Good, sir.
Thank you. I won't belabor it, but just from some comments I've received and some thoughtful time I've spent on it, I'm going to say that aside from the fact that the National Night Out is a great event, I think that our charter's idea of special circumstances, we all will start choosing what is most special. I just feel like the citizens should expect their council meetings to take place more, with as much consistency as possible, so that the sunshine is shining everywhere. So I'm just not going to vote in favor of it.
Fine. And we had a motion second already on this. Okay, great. Okay, do we, anybody from the public wish to address this? Do we need to for the resolutions, items not on the resolution? I don't think so. Okay. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Need a roll call?
Roll call.
Hold on, I need a roll call because you're going to go no. Okay, so roll call vote.
Ms. Hopes,
Yes.
Mr. Creel,
Yes.
Ms. Tillett,
Yes.
Mr. Slavy,
No.
Mr. Tucker,
No.
Mayor Jerome.
Yes. Okay. That's that. And then we're to city managers' reports. And back to you. Have fun.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. I think I will start out with, initially, the city has sent out a memo to each of you, certified mail, as well as to all board members within the city, in reference to transparency in government. As you recall, in the past, some of you have recused yourself from a financial gain or something to that effect in the past. And this just stipulates that there are other options in which you can recuse yourself. And I think from that perspective, I would let legal explain any of that from the attorney report. No. So, but I did want to make you aware, I would put it over to the city attorney to make sure that she could explain anything. We did send this out to all the boards. The city attorney will bring this issue up before every board over the next month. We will make it known to all board members that they really have an obligation if, do you need this?
No.
I have an obligation from a financial, if they cannot vote on something, or from a, just a perspective, if they feel like they need to recuse themselves. And this in some respects is a standard practice, I'll say it that way, as some of the other local cities. We did reach out to them, and there were a couple cities that do this on a standard basis, just as a reminder to their board members. So if the city attorney, if you're okay, I let her give you any other explanation that might be needed.
Thank you. With respect to the mayor's letter, it mainly focused on sunshine and like Mr. Slavy said, sunshine shining everywhere. And that was basically the gist of the mayor's letter. And but going beyond that, we know the goal for that is to make sure that we conduct our business in the sunshine. We don't conduct conversations between board members outside of public meetings. That was the main gist of that. And just a friendly reminder, I would just ask you to do a little bit better job of disclosing ex parte communications or site visits before items. If you have any of those, please tell us who, when, where, information, and if there's emails you've received regarding an item, provide them to the city clerk, because they should be public record then at that point. So that's just a reminder on that. Now, with respect to did you want to have a question before that, or you want to wait till the end?
I'll wait.
Okay. All right. Now, I sent out a memo today, and it was kind of late. I apologize. Did you all get that, or no?
They don't have that
They
at
don't
this
have
point.
that yet? Okay. Well, this you'll get later. It's just very brief, and it just talks about conflicts. There's two instances in which a board member would conflict themselves out of a vote. Generally, it's financial interest, and for many years, that's been mainly the only reason. As of 2014, the legislature added a provision to another section of the statute that provided if you couldn't make your decision in a fair and unbiased manner in a quasi-judicial situation, then you may abstain from that matter as well. So in this memo that you'll get, it lays that out. It has both statutes, and it provides an explanation, and then the second page has the two applicable statutes with relevant provisions highlighted. And then on the last page, you'll be provided with sample language if you come into a situation in which you do not have necessarily a statutory voting conflict, but for the sake of appearance and to avoid the appearance of impropriety, that it's best that you would abstain from voting on that matter pursuant to that section of the statute, which is 286.012. And again, that is provided to you in the form that you'll receive later on or in the next day or so.
And we will update the package to include that for all to be able to view as far as citizens, so that they'll see the letter that was also submitted to you this evening.
Yeah, right. And that's mainly just so that,
Agenda packet.
just because we are supposed to make our decisions based on the evidence of the record before us, not based on our feelings and popularity, things like that. And that's the basis for that statute and the basis for that abstention, potentially, that conflict. So, I'm open questions. I'm happy to provide copies of this. Go ahead, sorry.
I just had one, and you were talking about if we receive an email, under what circumstances would we pass that along to the city clerk if we receive it? We receive emails every day from unsolicited, solicited. What are the rules?
Any email you receive regarding city business becomes public record. So you're under an obligation to maintain those. If it comes before the board, for instance, if you received an email about an item on tonight's agenda, it would be incumbent upon you to bring that, provide it to the clerk as part of the record.
And we capture that automatically through our software, as the city clerk was just pointing out, so you wouldn't have to forward those. It's just public notice that those are out there, and it is a public record.
I think really my address is a little more, if, on your own personal email at home, somebody sends you an item.
That's correct.
Okay, the business that's going to come in front of the board, from the council for some reason, you should just make a copy, send it to, you can send those, forward them, those kind of emails, and put them in a little package, whatever you want to do, just get them into the one. And what I usually do a lot of times when I get those, I will send it to my city email, that email to my city email from my home email, and then she captures it on hers, and then it becomes public record at that point.
And I get that, but the ones that go to our city email address are already captured.
They're
I don't need to do
captured,
that.
but you should bring it to light when discussing an item. If you've heard from citizens specifically and you have had ex parte communications via email, then you should disclose those.
Like an item, a resolution that we present to you this evening, or an ordinance, those types of items you should.
Like if Mr. Slavy, for example, had gotten specific emails about the right-of-way giveaway potentially issue, then he should say, such and such emailed me about this, and it was to the city email.
Okay.
And then as well as any newsletters or anything that you send out to the public should go to the city clerk if they come from your address and not through the city email address. Because again, we would not have notice of that. So if you update the citizens in any way, then city clerk needs to be included in that. That we're not posting it for all council members in a public site, but we posted on the city clerk's records so that she has a record of it in case one of you would like to read what someone else wrote about an area that you may have interest in, especially at large, even at large odd, because you have other districts that you're representing. So, yeah.
Which you can read, but then not call the other person to talk about it.
That's correct.
In the ethics class we were in the other day, and they said something, and which is kind of unusual. If you like something on Facebook, it becomes a public record, and that was kind of weird because a lot of times we do this little like here, but it becomes a public record, and I don't know if that pertained if we're looking at something on Facebook on our from home or from here, or I don't know how that. I guess I would assume it's from home.
If it's city business, then it needs.
If it has something to do with city business.
That's correct.
Not just everything. Okay.
Be careful when you're using technology and be aware that there's all sorts of potential, things that people could bring up, if you're not in the sunshine.
And as always, any of you have questions or concerns, the city attorney is available to you also to reach out to and ask questions. So from a legal standpoint, if it's something that you would like to ask them, she's available. If it's a records request, yes. If it's a records request, you can always send it to the city clerk in reference to a question. So you have available resources to you so that if you're not sure if it's something that you need to make a note of, you can do that. I would also note, as Ms. Gwen just brought up, if you receive text, you need to forward your text via an email to the city clerk as a record request, or as a public record, excuse me.
You can even just forward it to your city email address.
And
You don't
it's
have to
recorded.
send it to me, but then it's on the network, so we have it if we need it.
Have to do a search.
Helpful there.
I can only manage the records I have. What I don't have, then you're the custodian of. And my advice to you would be to hold on to as few records as you can. The more I have, the less you have to worry about it.
So if you put it to your email, as the mayor does at the city website, then we have it if we go through that ruling. We'll either, we'll determine what will happen of the painting. And from that point on, then we bring back to you if there's something at the next meeting. If they don't follow the guidelines of the magistrate, then it comes back before you. You can make a decision on something that was presented, whether it's fines or an outcome or that type thing. So, but it's a residential painting, a residential wall. The citation was based on the code that's in place, which is what we would consider the law in place for the residential wall. And it's not the same as the commercial site. So just want to give you a quick update on that. As mentioned earlier, Summit Association, we did receive information from them on August 3rd. So therefore, we had already passed our date to submit any item to the council, which would have been July 31st. In reference to this item, John Peters quickly worked with Pegasus to try to determine whether or not there was something the city could do. What we were informed of is that the Summit experiences severe water runoff due to the improperly installed improvements and inadequate drainage on Helen Street and 7th Avenue. So they asked us to look into that. Dennis Hewitt was the person who was out on medical. He was working with them before he went out on medical and then departed on medical. He just returned this week. So Mr. Brooks has asked, and Summit are requesting that we address the issue. Pegasus sent us back the report yesterday. I simply sent it to Jennifer today to acknowledge it. Other than a quick read, that's all I can tell you at this point in time. But in speaking with John Peters, we believe we can correct the problem within the next 30 days. It will require a partnership on our side as well as the owner. There will be possibly some drainage corrections on their property as well as the city. So we'll reach out, we'll take the letter, we'll see if that meets the satisfaction of everyone. We'll keep Pegasus involved and I'll bring you back an update. It is a basic operating function of maintaining the roads. But we just wanted you to be aware of where we stood with that process. So I would suspect the September 19th, I might have an answer that we've completed it. If not, we'll at least have a schedule of where we're at in the process. So that is the item on Summit. Councilmember Wolfson asked that I present to you the sober homes. He is representing the council at Florida League of Cities this week. He would appreciate your consensus that he can use this presentation in support of the city to present the legislative process as part of the board that he is on, and in a positive manner. So it says the Florida League of Cities supports legislation requiring certification for recovery residents and recovery resident administrators to ensure that this vulnerable population is protected in the recovery residency. Residents administrators have the competencies necessary to appropriately respond to needs. And the concern is that a sober home can exist in any community without regulation, and he's looking to make sure that there's regulation put in place so that we know maybe not who our residents or our neighbors may be, but if they're representing an interest. So he would like to have your support in that respect, so I did present that to you tonight. I provided you the monthly report as well as the monthly measurements in which we are using at this point in time. Of course, going forward, we'll be using the Florida Benchmark Consortium, and you'll see improvements. And I think we've spoken several times about the FBC actually lets us establish some standards by which we can measure our progress in the city and report to our citizens. We've also provided the monthly financials, which again support the budget that we went through tonight, and the fund balance, again, which is what we provided to you this evening. My final item is the budget quarterly report. Should be presented, or should be within your mailboxes, that you have this available to you today or tomorrow. It may be in your boxes this evening. And as always, we report that to you monthly. In the new fiscal year, quarterly. In the new fiscal year, the goal will be that we will provide you on the second meeting of the month, the monthly report of the closing of the previous month. So we hope to bring you more information, and again, those will be also available on our webpage. And I believe that is it at this point in time, unless I missed something.
Maybe I missed the public information officer.
She'll be right up, yes.
Coming right up.
Good evening, Lisa McDonald, Public Information Officer. I recently attended a CHIPS program, which is the health department for the state of Florida, and they're doing a health evaluation for Lake County. They separated everybody into groups, and I got the addiction group. So coming right out of sober home, this kind of comes right into this. There is a program that caught my attention that Be Free Lake is doing, and they're an organization in Lake County that helps people with mental illness and with addictions. And they're doing it here in Mount Dora on Monday, August 21st. And it's going to be at the St. Philip Lutheran Church on Boyd Drive. They are doing a mental health first aid class to help people. We all know CPR, we all know Heimlich, but would you know how to help someone who's having a mental crisis? Not a lot of people would know how to do that. I know our firefighters and our policemen are trained to do that, but the rest of us may not know how to do that. So they're offering an adult mental health first aid class. It's an 8-hour class, and class begins at 8:30. It's a course that you learn about risk factors, warning signs for mental health and addiction concerns, and strategies on how to help someone in crisis and non-crisis situations. And there was a recovering addict in our group as well, and he said one of the rising populations for mental health and addictions is the elderly population. with addictions to pills. So I thought that was a very interesting thing. You learn how to plan for a variety of situations, including someone who's having panic attacks, suicidal behaviors, psychosis, or any kind of reaction to trauma. They're going to be doing all kinds of scenarios, activities. You get a workbook when you leave. You even qualified for CEUs and certificates. It's a free program. They need at least 15 people to register for this. You have to save your spot with a check, a $25 deposit, but you get that back at the end of the class. So it is a free program. It's open to anyone in the public, anyone from the council that wants to come, and I have all the information. I also have plenty of printed sheets that I'll put up and around town. A blue sheet, we have some over here by Misty as well. So if you're interested, please sign up. A couple other things, I've redone the residence page on our website. So I've added a few things. I've added an arts and culture page. I separated out festivals and events. I've added, well, we had committees in there, but city services contact numbers instead of having to go all over the place, all over the website. Now I have everything for utilities, what to do if you have a water main break, any kind of power outages. So I have those numbers broken down. And then a lot of the stuff that was already on there is still on that page. I want to encourage everybody to log on to dailycommercial.com. They're having a 2017 Best of the Best competition going on right now. And Mount Dora's Community Center is up for Best Concert Venue. And Mount Dora Center for the Arts has their Art Festival and Crafts Fair. So you can vote once a day, every day. When you click vote, it's going to ask you for your email and then a little bit more information. You can opt out. I've voted several times and it hasn't spammed me. There's nothing, I haven't gotten anything on my email. So you can opt out of any kind of emails. But vote, 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 vote. And the last thing I have, or actually a couple more things. I met with the National Association of Hispanic Broadcast Journalists this morning. Myself and Lake County PI was out there talking to them. And they said that they're interested in covering more stories in Lake County and in Mount Dora, and that we have a growing Hispanic population. So they'd like to come out here more. These are representatives from Telemundo, from El Sentinel, from CFN 13. They're having their growth over there. And the one thing that they're very interested is maybe doing some stories with this on the Wolf Branch Innovation as that grows. They'd love to come out and do some more in-depth pieces. I'm already picturing walk-and talks through the area as it grows, so that's certainly something they're very interested in. And Monday the 21st, our library is having a solar eclipse viewing party. They're going to view NASA. They're going to have NASA up live so that you can watch the full eclipse. We're only going to see partial eclipse here. There's going to be a documentary of a gentleman, and his name escapes me, but he filmed solar eclipses all around the world and did a 61-minute documentary. They're going to air that. They're going to have the solar glasses. There's going to be refreshments, and that starts at noon on the 21st. So I'd love to see everybody out there. I'll be out there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Mayor, I've included in here the city attorney report and legal update. I just prepared the report, but I know Ms. Coxcroft might like to make a couple comments about that, but that has been provided as expected. I have started putting all the reports in the second meeting of each month. It was a little bit challenging to try to put some on the first meeting, some on the second meeting. I think we'll just continue with all the reports at the second meeting each month, and that way there's a consistent expectation that I provide you as well as from the city clerk's office. So that has been provided as part of this report also.
Okay, thank you. And the student Larry, because you had the, just lead in right to your city attorney's report, and then we'll continue on. How's that?
Okay.
Do you have anything?
I've pretty much provided it all already. Other than there's the update on the certification status, and just FYI, the current number of board certified attorneys in the state of Florida has approximately 101,260.023%.
Okay.
Soon to be increased by one.
Hopefully.
Yes, it will.
Yep, I got a question.
My bad.
I got a question, or maybe someone can clarify. On the city attorney, our motions, there were two motions that were made. The first motion was that the city retain Retains present law firm, however, require Mr. Groot not to be directly involved in any amount or business. I think that's been met, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, and within 1 year, the firm has a board certified attorney in admissible law. Is Mr. Groot still board certified?
Yes, he is.
And he's still with the firm?
Yes, he is.
Okay, so that's met. And number 3, all attorney communications go through the city manager or city council. I assume that's been met.
Oh, yes, sir.
And number 4, that city council redirect their requests through the city manager to eliminate duplicate effort. I think that's been met. I am at a loss now, knowing that this has been met, why we keep putting this in here each week. I just don't get it.
It hasn't been met.
Because there's a lot of other truisms that we don't put in our reports every other week or whatever it is. So,
Again, I was just asked to provide the report, which I felt like this gives you a history of what was decided at the board. So that's what I've done here is provide you the motions as well as the contract information and then updating of the report. And until I have been instructed that this report can be either be removed or changed, that's where I was going.
okay, well, I'm all right. All right, I'm good.
Anything else on that? Okay, the, board appointments, excuse me, you got, do number 1? Are just gonna be reappointment of this? Do we have to do anything here or what? So it's reappointment, affirmation of John O'Grady to Police Pension Board. Is everybody, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. So done. And reappointment and affirmation of Chris Roth to the Fire Pension Board. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And Public Art Commission is my appointment. I'm going to appoint Juliet Ritchie, and you have her information, and all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Mayor?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I do, and looking at the board makeup, I don't see Ms. Grove's name on there. It's been several months since I replaced Ms. Grove and Ms. Grove. Yes, was voted on being made.
Is that
Ms. Grogan,
Grogan?
okay.
Which board? The Public Arts also? Public Arts. Okay.
The city clerk said she was on her copy.
Copy the roster.
The roster I'm looking at is Jim Carlton.
Okay. Good then. Where's that one? Okay, good. Okay, let's see. And we're down to the council members. When you make any comments, reports, or anything you want to do tonight, I'm not going to go back to one more item and one more thing afterwards. When it gets to me, it's done at that point, okay? Make sure ahead of time. So with that, Mr. Kraft.
No, I mean, I disagree. I think the whole point of meeting together, and we are limited in what we can discuss with, I mean, we can't discuss anything offline outside of this forum. And if someone says something, say Ms. Hoax presents an idea or a point of view on something, and I have already stated my point of view, something she says may trigger an additional thought in me.
I'm not stopping that.
You're saying one more thing. You're saying
No,
that,
when I
if
get-
we get one chance, excuse me,
Okay.
I am interpreting what you just said to say, we get one chance to speak and then that's it. And I disagree, and I'm gonna, I won't.
Okay, what I'm getting at, there's been times when I'm last on the agenda here, okay, and we close it out at that point. And when I get done with my comments, people are, there's been times where people, I have to have one more thing. At that point, that's what I'm talking about at that point. We have all that time up to that, people can discuss what you want to discuss. But when I get my turn, at that point, as the mayor, the meeting is adjourned at that point. That's what I'm getting at, okay?
Point of clarification, so you are not saying when we are discussing an item that we can't have
You can discuss all throughout here.
can discuss
Yes.
throughout here. Are you talking at the end of the
When I-
agenda?
This is the end of the agenda right there.
Got it.
Okay,
Perfect.
you got it.
Got it. Thank you.
All right. Okay, with that, Mr. Creel, give us something to discuss.
Well, first I have a question. I'm still concerned about the lack of recycling at the downtown Alexander and 4th Street parking lot area where the dumpsters are. I would say in the past that's probably been 70% of the poundage has been recycled materials and maybe 30% trash. Now it's all trash. There's no opportunity for any merchants to recycle their cardboard boxes and all sorts of things like that. I'm concerned about that, and I'm just wondering who should I be talking to about that?
If you're okay with it, I'd like to just call Mr. Peters up because we had a change in contracts. If he can just kind of explain the recycling, if it's okay for you, council member.
Oh, sure.
I'm gonna have to verify what I'm getting ready to say to you, but I believe Waste Management has gone to a single stream on commercial pickup. I'm almost positive. Single stream is they take it to a facility, and the facility has a magnet to get the ferrous material. It has a blower to blow the paper out. And so they go through the stream process and they actually remove the recyclables in their facility. So it is recycled. They call it a single stream. We don't do it on residential because it's much more difficult to do it because they pack the truck as opposed to how they do the commercial. The commercial is a single stream operation.
Okay. If there's ever an opportunity to visit the waste management facility.
You want to go to Wildwood?
Road trip.
I would.
Okay,
I
will set it up.
Okay, thanks. And that really does help me answer the question, because we carefully separate materials and then you go out there and there's both dumpsters say the same thing.
Well, the advantage of the single stream, one of the things we ran into downtown is, like you said, you get people who, I'm not picking on anybody, but like I understand. but
I visit those dumpsters on a regular basis.
But what I'm trying to say is by having the dumpster be single stream, we don't end up in a situation where a single entity could use up the entire volume of the recycling bin, and now we're going strictly trash.
Gotcha.
And we did have this discussion probably 6 months ago with Waste Management. They came down when we were looking at.
For them to do single stream that way, they don't have to bring 2 trucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have people that were literally having to walk from Baker down to Alexander and Fort to put recycling.
Maybe we were the only business that didn't understand. We thought recycling.
This topic. I know that there were other, I got an inquiry from a business downtown about why is there no more recycling, and was there something to do with like grease from restaurants or?
That's a different situation.
Oh, okay, so, all right, so that has, so there is recycling downtown.
Yeah,
but it's single
stream process.
Put everything in the same thing.
And
is the city gonna sort of advertise that to the downtown?
We'll put it on the website. We will make sure the website reflects that.
Maybe.
I was just going to say, I've seen people dutifully carrying the broken down cardboard in one, arm and then the garbage in the other. And then now I just think about the lost time that they took to break that down, do those things when they didn't have to. So getting them informed would be great.
Well, if they don't,
But they break it down so
Well, I should say break it down, but the separation.
Thing.
Yeah.
Being on single stream, just when we talk about recycling boxes and stuff, you're talking about putting whole boxes in. I would assume your waste management charges, like I used to be charged with the school district. A 10 cubic yard weighs so much. They charge you not by the cubic foot, but by tonnage on that, and that's charged that way to you for landfill.
On our, what are you talking, commercial or residential?
Commercial.
commercial, my understanding is it's based on the dumpster itself.
It's dumpster size,
Because the
right.
cost involved in bringing the truck from Wildwood to pick it up and going back, it's not in dealing with the trash.
So if they, I guess I'll put it this way, if they picked up a 10 cubic yard container that had nothing but empty boxes in it, okay, they're gonna charge, it's gonna be the same rate as if you put 10 tons of material inside of that. It's gonna be the same charge regardless.
They charge according to the container
To the
size.
container, right. So this is why it's incumbent on businesses to break down the containers as much as you can, get the best use out of your containers, and it'll save us money in the long run, for the whole city. Appreciate that.
Just a quick announcement. I do a little work with the Lake County Water Authority, and I wanted to let everyone know that on the 27th, Sunday, August 27th, there'll be open house at Wolf Branch Sink, which is located very near here. It's an amazing and unique opportunity. If you're interested, I believe, and I could be wrong on this, I believe it's going to be open from 8:30 until 3 in the afternoon on Sunday, the 27th.
Tell them why that is so neat to do it. Why to go look at that?
Because I'll be there?
No, besides that. I know that's an attraction in itself.
Well, it's
What if you're wearing your shorts?
It's one decided Hoops Hoops Life Cares fall sponsorship. I think we all agreed it's a wonderful program, but the majority felt that
That was from the minutes, so that's why I thought it was coming back for another discussion. And I'm
Well,
just
I'll read it.
from-
Read
no,
it.
Yeah, so reading from the minutes, the county did not propose any other types of funding. City council will end up giving the city manager further direction of whether to bring the issue back to city council. If there are no changes, then a note would be incorporated that there was some movement by Lake County in an effort to assist with the funding. And then it says, Councilmember Crail would like for Ms. Hayes to bring it back to city council, but he believes there may be other opportunities for Lake County to assist with funding. And that's why I thought it was coming back for another, discussion.
I did
So I guess we're
not
all-
mean for it to come back unless the county ponied up some money. And what they proposed instead was something that I believe they knew or should have known was not viable. And therefore there was no movement, and that's, I'm just one, but I don't think either one of those things should come back. Otherwise, we will keep revisiting things that we voted on and decided time after time after time until, I guess, somebody weakens and changes their mind, and I'd rather go forward than.
I agree with you 100%. We always try to avoid that situation.
Thanks.
Okay, Ms. Oaks.
Well, having left here at 7 a.m. after the last meeting and coming back yesterday at 1 p.m. and spending the last however many hours reading 177 emails and the packet, I haven't had time to get into anything. But with that said, I have to share how small a world it is that I was in Anchorage, Alaska at a restaurant talking to the people standing next to me, who are you from? And I say, Mount Dora, Florida. And she goes, oh, I'm going there in October. I'm one of your craft vendors at the craft show. We love Mount Dora and we love Janet. She is so nice. So I went, oh, well, I'll look for you then. So I've got her vendor number and everything, and I'm going to go find her when the craft festival comes. But it really brought it all back. It's 2,500 miles away, and here's someone right there knowing Mount Dora. But I will share with you the Friends of the Library, because I got this word while I was gone. Friends of the Library Trivia Night sold out 2 weeks before the event. We've sold all 30 tables, 240 plus people, and I know there was some competitive people in the audience who were going to be at it. They're already practicing. But it's a first-time fundraiser doing a trivia night for the Friends of the Library, and so they're going to make a nice profit since they've already collected the money. Now people just have to come and play trivia. So with that, I'm done.
And here, so Mr. Tucker.
Alrighty, thank you, Mayor. You can probably blame me, if you like, about the revisitation of hoops. As I recall, at that council meeting, we all had about 2 dozen questions, and unfortunately, Mr. Burke was not advised to be here that night. When they contacted me, I said, well, if you want to, represent it and be there. That's why it was represented. So, in lieu of answering some of those questions, we all, I believe, voted the same way. And we all voted, I think, in part because there was nobody here to answer those questions. So I'm not going to say that the vote is going to change at all. It may still be 7-0. But that's why it was put back on the agenda. So Mr. Burke could clarify and answer questions. I'm not saying it will change anything. But it's, if nothing else, I believe everybody deserves a fair shake. And through no fault of his own, he did not get one at the last meeting through not being here.
The 6-1.
Pardon?
I voted for the 6-1.
Okay, 6-1. I stand corrected. And other than that, I have to agree with Ms. Hoyce. What about Alaska? Did you fires and all the pots hanging?
I took pictures.
I know, that's what I wanted to do down here in town.
I did all the, but of course the weather's.
I know, the weather is different. We got to put cactus or something.
But it is.
But having said that, I spent last 3 days, probably 18 hours on the road, so I have very little to say tonight, but.
So maybe we can just see about what, now that it's all fresh in our minds, you know, what the resolution could be on that, if we can turn that into a pocket park similar to Serenity Park, or if we should or need to vacate that property. Just seems like if we're in that mode, we should do it now. And the other thing, you know, I'm still looking forward to getting some information on possibility of putting some sort of shade trees downtown. Hope to get that done sooner than later. Let's see. The other things, I spent a little bit of time a couple weeks ago in New York City, and I can't tell you that I've seen more crosswalks and, you know, obsessed about the silliest things when you're walking around New York City, but I can tell you that our fire hydrants look better than theirs, and we have much less rust than they do, the traffic is much less here, so I just thought it was a really fun experience. It's pretty much being on city council has pretty much ruined my ability to go somewhere and just enjoy it for what it is. Now I'm sitting there looking at how many fire hydrants or whatnot, and it's just no more fun. But I will shout out to my lovely wife Maria that I get the chance to celebrate our 30th wedding anniversary in New York City, so that was fun.
God bless Maria.
Yes, the child marriage laws in Minnesota are very low, as you can.
St. Marie.
Oh, come on.
That's all I had. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. I'm going to get it all said so that until the mayor. I had noticed that one of the flower boxes, one of the planter boxes downtown out in front of a store still had some pencil cactus in it, and I thought all of that had been removed, but there was, you know, one lone survivor anyway. I think it was out in front of Papilio.
We'll look at it.
Okay, just because that stuff can be, you know, toxic to your eyes and stuff. But the only other thing I have to announce is that on 10 September, it's going to be a busy day for me. The Community Trust Distribution Committee meeting, the third one of the year, will be that day, and I'm going to encourage everyone to consider the community trust in your estate planning, and or, you know, if you need to lower your taxes by doing some more giving, donations, that the community trust has. There are lots of sub-trusts that you can contribute to that, you know, sort of fence your contribution into one particular focus area or the two general philanthropic funds. it really is one of the best managed organizations that, and I'm not saying that because Ed's in the audience out there, Ed Brooks.
I think I paid you.
But no, I really have, you know, paid attention to how the organization is managed and how careful everybody is about spending, you know, the money that's been entrusted to their care, and it's really been a great honor to have been the council representative to the community trust, and I hope to continue it at least for the near future. So that's all I have. It's really good, and you would be so. If you work for something with animals, you know, animal welfare, put in requests. All of the grants are now online. You can submit a grant online. It makes it really easy. You don't have to fill out a bunch of paperwork, and we don't have to read your lousy writing. You know, it's all typed up, and it's great. So encourage people to participate and think about us when you reach that tax season and want to reduce your liability. And thank you all for coming and slogging with us tonight.
Okay, thank you. Okay, tomorrow, August 16th, I think it's going to be an all day, I'm not sure, but over at the Early Childhood Center, and trying to think that, is that Grandview?
Oh, yes,
It's on Grandview? Yes, and they're having a open house tomorrow, prior to their school opening on Thursday, and they're showing off, I understand, a lot new playground equipment that's been over there. It's been looking kind of ratty over the years, but they did a lot of work fixing that place up, and I know they've been struggling this past year since they had the contract, and they've been doing a lot of the kids, working with the kids in their homes, and so they had increased their staff to what they had to do while they're fixing up the building, and I give them a lot of credit. I'm going to go there tomorrow before I head on out to the League of Mayors meeting tomorrow, and I'm going to be over there for a while and wishing them well. And I know our buildings and grounds and different people have worked with them throughout the course of this past year and helping with their needs and what we can do as far as the city. It is their responsibility, but we've done a lot on our end too, I think, to help them out with manpower and different recommendations and things. So appreciate whatever our crews did to help them get that thing up and running. And real quick, and again, I'm going to give Mr. Hughes a little bit of credit here, and along with Mary Miller. And we submitted, for the League of Mayors, we submitted an application for a grant, $1,500 for the Serenity Park. And unfortunately, I got a letter a couple days ago saying that I did not receive the grant. But I want to thank them for their help and helping me get the grant put together. It was a short grant, but had to be worded in special ways and things like that, and they were very instrumental in getting the grant written, so we can put it out. And but unfortunately, it didn't win the $1,500 on that. And
Mayor, while you're talking about that, how much have we spent on Serenity Park to this point? Do we know?
I'm not sure. I think it's around the mid-20 range, I think, or maybe less. I'm not sure.
It was 16, and then we put the last bit and pieces in there, so I think it is in the 20s.
Right around 20.
So we'll bring you back a report next time.
Can we see a full report of that?
We will.
Yeah, and I'm not sure how much more it needs to go, but they're still looking for Mary's still looking for people who buy the bricks and the different things. I need the kind of donations again, and they have I think a thing through the community trust also for donations if you want to do anything with them. It's really nice little park. It's shaping up very pretty over there. And the grant is, real quick, the grant where we're going to use it for, one of the feature attractions, the park is placed where on a former site of a water tower. So what the thought process, since this is going to be a relaxing park that people can go read a book, things like that, one of the features would be a sculpture of the water tower, but in a way it could be used for a book depository also. We still would like to do that. We estimated a price of around $4,500 to do that, and the $1,500 would help to offset that cost a little bit. So if anybody has some money that they want to donate, or a sculptor that, who can please, some metal art, can do something like that for the park, just something short, that would be replica of that big water tower that used to be there. It'd be really nice.
I have a staff person working on it already.
All right, thank you very much. And don't forget, council people, on August the 31st, 4:15 p.m., be here. We're going to go on our field trip to the Innovation District and make sure that that four-wheel drive is working good, Chief O'Grady, and that's working good for us, okay?
Make sure yours.